Do you see this symbol right here? It's called a 5-pointed star. Many will refer to it as the pentagram. That is going to be our topic for this video. The 5-pointed star have attained quite a bit of popularity, mainly as a symbol of the occult. Many people run from it, many people are drawn towards it out of curiosity. Whatever you think you believe about the pentagram, if whatever you think you believe about this makes you want to stay away from it or not want to hear anything about it, know that you may very well be living your life upon someone else's opinion and confusion. We would entreat those of you who haven't watched our previous video titled Nature of Belief to do so after watching this video for deeper understanding that belief systems are like apps installed on your computer you call your mind, and if an app isn't helping you, you owe it no allegiance. Just uninstall it. One good way to uninstall an app of belief from your mind is by keeping an open mind, which literally costs you nothing, at the very least will leave you more educated. Many have come to view the 5-pointed star or the pentagram as a symbol of evil, a symbol of witchcraft, a symbol of sorcery, a symbol of blasphemy, anti-God, anti-Christ, devil worship. It's a symbol that represents forbidden knowledge of so-called God. This is due to the influx, the huge influx of this particular symbol across the entire entertainment circles, music, movies, religion, social media, secret societies, etc. Gradually, people get programmed to fear this symbol through mainly the television, other media, not knowing that even the television as we know it today remolds and reshape your understanding of the world around you. This is why even every show on television is called a program, as well as every event you attend is also called a program, because the human mind is being constantly programmed 24/7. This reality is ongoing and it will always be ongoing without the knowledge of most people, hence the fear surrounding an important symbol such as this, the pentagram. The first thing we will address is that the pentagram represents the 5 elements of creation operating as a unified force. The elements are ether, fire, water, air, and earth. Pay attention as we say that these elements spoken of just now are not exactly as the words describe. For instance, from our experience in the third-dimensional physical reality, fire as we experience it isn't an element, it's actually a creation, it's an entity. Water is a creation, it is not an element. Water as we drink, water as in a river, is not an element, it is a creation. The air that we breathe in isn't an element, it's a creation. The element of earth as we know it in a physical reality, in texture and form, isn't an element but rather a created form. The ether is also experienced from our dimension, from our physical reality, as physical space or vacuum or void. But the elements, as being discussed here in their true form, are really the building blocks of life. The elements are creative material for all life. The elements operate within creation like the threads forming a piece of fabric. Each fabric you see or touch has a distinct thread arrangement interwoven to create variety in texture, form, thickness, what have you. So this is how the elements dance together and cooperate with one another in order to express themselves as the infinite variety of all life forms we have in nature, including human beings. All these elements work with one another to form everything in nature. But when it comes to humans, the elements behave a little more than usually it operates within the rest of nature. Within humanity, the elements can be experienced consciously. Only human beings can experience and interact with the elements consciously because of our awareness. We become aware of how the elements move and operate. The elements can also be manipulated and controlled by human attention. Human attention can do that. Humans in the physical world are the only ones who can control the elements this way. The pentagram represents man first and foremost. Aside being represented by the element, or the elements being represented by the pentagram, the human being is the representation of the pentagram, and the pentagram represents the human being, because primarily the pentagram describes the harmonious interplay and the harmonious workings between the five elements. The five elements working in measured proportions. We have something like the ether, which constitutes 6% of life, and fire element constitute 4%. Water constitute the majority, which is about 72%. The element of air constitutes 6%, and the element of earth constitute about 12%. The ether mainly deals with spiritual experience, which allows we human beings to experience the deeper spiritual aspects of the four elements of fire, water, air, and earth. So if we wish to go deeper and experience the spiritual aspects of fire, water, air, and earth, this is where the etheric element plays a major role. When you have all the elements come together in their true form, we call these universal life force, or prana. When the elements in their pure form, in their truly pure form, exist together as one unit, we call it life force. Other people, like in Christianity, it is known as the breath of God. The breath of God. In other systems of spirituality, it is known as prana. Interesting enough, this universal force, that is the five elements merging as one in their pure highest form, is what for most part has been referred to by most people as God. So the definition of God as life force isn't entirely accurate though, but it is also not entirely inaccurate. It's just that as far as creation is concerned, this is the closest human being can experience this creative source as God, because human being is essentially composed of these five elements, or every aspect of us is composed of these five elements. So if you are made in the image of the Creator, the closest you can come to define the Creator will be the five elements operating in their highest possible capacity. We will post another video why and how religion attempted to rename this universal force God, though it is close enough to describing that which we call the creative source, or the source of life, because it is the building blocks of all life. 5 is the number of man. We have been taught that man has only 4 limbs, 2 legs, 2 arms, but rather we have 2 legs, 2 arms, and the combination of the neck and the head is also a limb, which is 5. But the pentagram is a very ancient symbol, okay, and it has been completely misinterpreted by modern religions, mainly Christianity and Islam, to mean evil, while it actually represents man and his true essence. The pentagram represents creation and created form, and in humans especially, it means, as the image shows, you realize that the upward pointing pentagram, the apex, is where we have the etheric element. The 4 elements of fire, water, air, and earth have to come under the control of the etheric element. They need to be honed, they need to be molded in service to man's highest potential, which is why the ether is at the top. So it also means that by operating from the etheric, or the spiritual, or the occult aspect of man, man should take dominion of nature. When Christians as well as Muslims read that man was given control over all creation from their own scripture. It means that in order for man to be able to take dominion, he has to first master the four elements. Because the four elements, including the etheric element, they form all life in nature. And if man is going to take dominion and control over nature, man has to first of all be able to master the elements. That is the mandate, and that was the catch. So this is essentially harnessing the full power of the ether and using that ability to control fire, water, earth, and air, which constitute the rest of nature. This is why the church, as well as the powers that be, doesn't want you to know the secret of this very symbol, because of what it holds. It holds the mandate, it holds the knowledge and the wisdom of your essence, the elemental essence that is found within you, and why it represents man. The pentagram represents man, and the pentagram charges man to rise up to his true potential of mastering the elements so that they will be able to truly take dominion. Man or humanity hasn't been able to really operate from the perspective of this pentagram. As a result, everything that humanity has created has actually acted against itself. All the technologies and all human activities, human doctrine, human culture have gone to actually destroy nature. So basically we are living less than our optimum capacity because we are not operating from the perspective of mastering the elements in order to reshape and remold nature to the highest capacity. Now we move on to the other pentagram, the one that is pointing down. Previously, you've understood that the upward pointing pentagram has to do with the human being. It revolves around the human being functioning at the highest capacity, where the human being operating from the perspective of the ether is able to bring the elements of fire, earth, air, and water under control, becoming a master of creation or a master of nature, taking dominion over nature, not necessarily controlling nature in the wrong way, but becoming a proper steward and adding to what has already been made. In order to do that, in order to be able to master creation, you need to know its secrets. So we are going to explain the relationship between the upward pointing pentagram and the downward pointing pentagram. The downward pointing pentagram has greatly, when you search the internet, everything you find has to do with evil and darkness, and this is propaganda. It is important that you understand that so much information has been kept away from the masses, and those that are exposed to the masses, a lot of it is also false. So the downward pointing pentagram, you see that it looks like the upward pointing pentagram that has been turned upside down. The upward pointing pentagram is where you have the human being or man operating from the perspective of the ether, that from the spiritual perspective, bringing the physical aspect of the human being, water, fire, earth, and air under full control, mastering all nature. In order to be a master of nature, in order to truly take dominion by operating from the etheric element, you must use that capacity to know the secrets of nature. Here is where the word occult was created or was born. You see that the downward pointing pentagram, the etheric tip or the apex of the star is pointing downward, meaning that it is taking a dive into nature. The etheric aspect, the tip, is pointing down, whilst the other aspect that is more of the physical form of creation, which we have the fire, earth, water, and air, are upward, and the etheric tip is pointing downward, meaning that man is actually operating from the spiritual aspect of himself and using that aspect to investigate the secrets of the universe. So the downward pointing pentagram means going deep and finding out, learning, gaining wisdom and knowledge into how creation works. How can you take dominion of creation if you don't know its secrets? The downward pointing pentagram is how science was born, but they will not tell you it. In order for you to understand the secrets of nature, to create technology, to do more, to add more to what has already been made, you need to understand the natural law. You need to understand how the world works. You need to understand how the universe works, both physically and spiritually. And that is the symbol of the downward pointing pentagram. But when you search the internet, all you find is evil, satanic, and everything. And please ask yourself, why is it like that? Even the religions that claim to be telling you the truth hasn't actually succeeded in any way. Religion hasn't been able to even scratch the surface of the secrets of the universe. So obviously it has to tell you that something is wrong. There is a system of control here. The upward pointing pentagram is interchangeable with the downward pointing pentagram. In order for you to have the upward pointing pentagram, that is the human being becoming a true master of the universe, knowing the secrets of the universe, and becoming a true guardian and steward of nature, he has to be able to gain enough experience when it comes to the secrets of nature, so that he can understand how natural law works. He can understand the physics, the chemistry, the mathematics, how reality works, how nature works. It is the only way you can add to what it has already been made. And that is what is represented by the downward pointing pentagram. As simple and as demystified as we have made it, this is how it is. And those in the high places, the powers that be, understand this distinction. When you pick the upward pointing pentagram, okay, the pentagram in the middle, or what we call the polygon, the 5-pointed geometric shape that is formed in the middle of the pentagram, okay, when you pay close attention to the pentagram, in the center of the pentagram you will find that there is a pentagon, a 5-sided figure, basically forming the middle of the star. Okay, now the corners, the 5 corners of the pentagon, when you trace these 5 corners and you connect them together, you are going to get another shape in the center of this upward pointing pentagram, and the shape will look exactly as what we have as the downward pointing pentagram. So essentially it is actually interconnected. For you to be the master of creation, that is the human being to be an enlightened master, to be a steward of nature, which is represented by the upward pointing pentagram, you first have to be able to dive with your spiritual faculties. You must use your spiritual faculties, which is represented by the ether, the upper tip of the star. You must take it into nature and investigate the secrets of nature. So it is interconnected. The two work together, but one has been made demonic and evil to stay away from it. Religion does that to convince you that all your purpose on this planet is to just worship whatever, obey some doctrines to whatever end unknown. But our true purpose is to be the stewards and the dominions over this creation, to add to what has already been made and not to destroy the harmony. It is imperative that we understand the mysteries of nature, and that is represented by the downward pointing pentagram, which on the internet and in Google you find that it represents evil and satanic and all of that. So ask yourself, why is that aspect, that mandate, that charge, that instructions, that responsibility and duty of every human being to make sure that they understand the secrets of nature, to be able to uphold that secret? If you don't know the law, how can you uphold it? If you are in a community or in a city or in a country and you don't know the laws of the land, how can you faithfully live in the country? So it serves to understand that in order to function as real effective human beings, we need to understand the laws or the nature of the universe in which we dwell. And the symbol that is the downward pointing pentagram, is what directs us to do it. That very symbol is used to do it, to investigate into the secrets of nature, which the world has essentially erroneously called occult. And occult means hidden. That is the meaning of the word occult. It means hidden. That is why the downward pointing pentagram has greatly been used to describe satanism and evil, occult, all of that. So we have demystified it for you to understand what it is. There are so many uses of this particular pentagram, but the purpose of this video was to explain the nature of the two. They are not evil, they are not demonic, they are not bad. Understand it from this perspective, and in course of other videos we will go deeper into using some of these symbols for the benevolent and for the betterment of our lives. Thank you for watching. Bless you.